Our speaker, in lieu of Gary Brugman, this gentleman will tell his story very well, is a former military policeman in the United States Army. He was in law enforcement, the civilian side, in more than one occasion. He's been the owner manager of a very successful pest control firm in North Harris County for a number of years. Husband of Beverly Collier. Founder, or co-founder? Co-founder of the U.S. Border Watch, one of the most effective, and they've done a super job of stirring things up along FM 1960 and crippling the day labor sites there and elsewhere. May their numbers multiply. And our gentleman, of course, is our very own Curtis Collier, who's going to tell the story, the untold story of Border Patrol Agent Gary Brugman and why we must free agents Ramos and Campion. Ladies and gentlemen, Curtis Collier.
Thank you, Ken. It's always a pleasure coming before friendly faces. I did not expect to speak with y'all quite as two times so close together, but it's always a pleasure. But when Ken asked me to step up and speak in Gary Brugman's place, it became an honor. Gary Brugman is a wonderful man. I know some of y'all have had the opportunity to meet him, and I wish y'all all would have today. He certainly was very disappointed that he could not be here, but he says that he will make something in the future. So today, basically what I'm going to do for you is tell you Gary's story, because Gary's story is a story that if you've never heard, you won't believe. And you'll ask yourself, when I am finished telling this story, how did this individual ever end up in a federal prison, in the federal prison system of the United States? It basically started in January of 2001. Gary Brugman was working out of the Eagle Pass station in South Texas, and as usual, the United States Border Patrol stations along in the Texas border were very short-handed on personnel on this particular evening. There, in this sector they were working in, there was only 3 Border Patrol agents working. They had 2 patrol units, and then they had what they call a scope unit. A scope unit can be either something from night vision or thermal that allows the Border Patrol agents to see into the dark. They greatly assist the agents in the field in seeing what is hidden in the bushes. And for those of you who have never been in South Texas, it's literally like a maze down there. At approximately 7 o'clock in the evening, Gary Brugman and his partner was advised by the scope truck that somewhere between 12 and 14 illegal aliens had crossed over the border and was in the pecan orchard. Him and his partner immediately responded to the area, to this pecan orchard, searching for the illegal aliens who had crossed the country, crossed the border. When they arrived there, they seen these individuals who spotted them and began to flee. Gary Brugman jumped from his vehicle and began a foot pursuit that lasted for more than 15 minutes and crossed more than 1.5 miles. It was at this point Mr. Brugman began to lose ground on the illegal aliens due to the weight that he carried on his service belt and the equipment that he's required to carry into the field. Another patrol unit arrived on the scene containing 2 Border Patrol agents. One of these agents was a what they call a newbie, or a trainee. He had been on the force for less than 3 months. Agent Brugman instructed the patrol unit where these suspects had went into the orchard, and they pursued them into the orchard by vehicle. At some point along the chase, they came across a concrete retaining ditch that they used for the irrigation purposes, and was unable to continue the pursuit in the vehicle. The training officer jumped from the vehicle, as eager as he was, being a very new Border Patrol agent, and charged into the night chasing these individuals. Officer Brugman continued his pursuit. However, he was slowed down greatly by fatigue. And once he arrived upon the scene where this trainee agent had 12 people sitting on the ground, they had formed somewhat of a semicircle around the trainee agent, who was instructing him in verbal commands to sit on the ground and to be still. When Agent Brugman arrived, basically approaching from the rear of the group of people, 2 of the illegal aliens had worked their way somewhat behind the trainee agent, was up on more of their knees and their ankles, sitting up on the balls of their feet. As one of them attempted to rise up, Gary Brugman arrived at the scene, took his foot, placed between this individual's shoulder blades, and shoved him to the ground. Turning to the secondary suspect, he ordered that suspect to immediately sit on the ground, in which he had complied to the order. At that time, several other Border Patrol agents arrived after being called for assistance and helped handcuff the suspects. The suspects were transported within a few minutes aboard a transport vehicle and was taken to the Border Patrol station at Eagle Pass. The incident that happened this night is an incident that happens along the borders of our nation many, many times in any given week. In fact, each and every one of you can watch on television on Saturday night and watch Cops. You will see the maneuver that Gary Brugman used against the suspect nearly every Saturday night. It is a technique taught not only by law enforcement academies throughout this nation, but actually taught at the United States Border Patrol Academy. Some 6 weeks later, an incident that really meant nothing. Then some 6 weeks later, on February 22nd of 2001, at approximately 5 o'clock in the morning, Gary Brugman and some more agents who were patrolling in the same sectors were notified by a sensor unit that some members or some individuals had crossed the border. As they moved into the area, one other unit, which was equipped with infrared cameras, spotted the individuals. Notified all units that these individuals were not your typical border crossers, and that they believed that they were carrying loads of narcotics because each one of them was equipped with a bundle strapped to his back. The officers began to set up basically a net around them and allowed them to come further into the United States before springing the trap. Once the agents sprang the trap on them, the individuals scattered into the woods. 8 of these individuals were apprehended very quickly and were taken into custody, but two others continued to elude authorities. After taking the original 8 into custody, the officers moved into the wood line with infrared cameras and night vision equipment in an attempt to locate the other individuals. Agent Brugman was on the far end of the policing line in the search when he noticed the 2 individuals hiding and crouching down into the bushes with his night vision glasses. He notified the other agents where their whereabouts were and began to slowly walk up on them. At some point, the illegal aliens noticed that Agent Brugman had realized their hiding place, and they bolted for the border. At this point, the foot chase was on. About 15 minutes into the foot chase, with all members of it just basically fatigued, the illegal aliens came up on a barbed wire fence between them and the river. Because Agent Brugman was in close pursuit of them, they turned parallel to the fence and began to run down the fence line. Little to any of them's knowledge, this was really just a cross fence, and they came into a 90-degree fencing corner. The first suspect literally dove through the stretched barbed wire fence as if he was Superman, parallel to the ground. At the same instant, the second illegal alien and Gary Brugman collided at the edge of the fence line and tumbled over the fence. Agent Brugman, during the scuffle with the individual, became entangled in the barbed wire, and at one point was basically hanging from the barbed wire with the illegal alien on top of him. He had one illegal alien by the pants and the other one was on top of him. He made the decision to release the illegal alien whose pants stuff he had to defend himself. Him and the illegal alien on top of him were engaged in a fierce fight. At one point, Agent Brugman felt that the illegal alien was tugging at his equipment belt in an effort to remove some of his equipment. At first I thought it was my handcuffs, and then I thought it was my gun. And to tell the truth, I did not know what he was trying to do, but at that point I feared that I was losing the battle. At that moment I struck out, striking the individual alongside of the head with my fist, knocking him off to my side. We were both laying on the ground fighting. After several punches that I successfully delivered to the suspect's head, the suspect said I had had enough. He submitted to being arrested and was taken into custody. This incident happens along the border of our nation every single day. Agent Brugman was asked by his supervisors to fill out the proper reports, in which he stated that he did. And in fact, his supervisors read the reports and said that they matched the statements that they requested that he fill out. But then on March 15th of 2001, the watch commander called Agent Brugman into his office, asking for his service weapon and asked him to turn in his badge.